Michał Renek, Małe Piwo tea, small beer, that's my channel, and today I had just amazing guests. Karel, brewery Boon, Tim, brewery founders. Sorry, I'm mixing Dutch with English.
That's all good. That's all right.
It's amazing to have you guests here in Warsaw Beer Festival, and maybe it will be obvious question at the beginning, but what's your feeling about this festival? I mean, you're coming from different countries, and now Polish festival. First impressions.
So much fun. I mean, like, first of all, it's rad to go to a festival that's... I've been to a lot of festivals in America and Europe, and there's breweries from all over the place. This is almost 100% Polish. So cool. Like, this is my first time in Poland, and I had no idea what to expect from, from the Polish craft beer scene. Who knew that, like, there's enough breweries to do a whole beer festival that's almost entirely Polish breweries. So it's rad.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same for me. It's first time here. No idea what to expect when I arrived. I had some ideas maybe, but I'm really pleasantly surprised by the amount of Polish breweries that you see right now. They're all right here. A lot of craft breweries. Everyone's like, it's all a positive mood, and it's you see a lot of different beer festivals everywhere you go. It's always there is a somewhat slightly different atmosphere. Here, I think it's clearly it's very Polish, but it's nice, and the Polish are really discovering new beer styles, and everyone's really.
Yeah, so you are doing a champions match,
That applause was for our answer to that question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so those are the first impressions, but I'd like to ask you some questions about your scene, in US, in Belgium. How you see? I mean, what's happening in US or what's happening in Belgium is always influencing the entire world. What is happening now in your countries that you see will come to Europe? I mean, like Germany, Poland, whatever. In next year too, that is absolutely brand new in your countries. Like, for example, 2-3 years ago, a Pils wave was going through United States. Now, almost every brewery in Poland, they have their good Pils, which was like 7 years ago. Like, no, you cannot brew Pils because it's like, a big breweries thing, Now they start going there, which was in US, I think, 2-3 years ago. What is happening now in Belgium, in the US, do you think will influence the scene all over the world?
I'm curious about what's going on in Belgium, actually.
Yeah, actually, it's a very difficult question because you're asking us to be a sort of oracle right now. But okay, I try to answer as how I see it, or we see it at the brewery. Actually, you see a couple of things going on right now worldwide, and I think it's difficult to say that the Belgian beer scene, historically, a lot of, let's just quickly go back 30-40 years ago. What I hear from a lot of Americans, for example, from that generation, they were looking towards Belgian beers because that was something different that was available compared to the United States breweries. In the 70s, there were 44 breweries or something in the United States. Not making the most.
I didn't know there was that many, but yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
There's more like 4.
No, there was 40. Was what I read in articles, but at least that's what I read. But okay,
that makes sense. Yeah.
But from what I understand, from talking to the older guys, there were a lot of interesting beers coming from Belgium that influenced them in the United States,
Absolutely.
and I suppose it sparked also the interest to make these special beers. And I think today we see somewhat the same in Poland, where people just, maybe they got bored of the Polish beers, I don't know, but now the Polish are also making a lot of things inspired by what's coming from abroad. Now in Belgium, Belgium is very traditional. We do try to innovate, and innovation, we innovate within our own beer style. We make it what we have, we try to make that better. There's a lot of breweries who try to maybe make some new beer styles as well, but not as much. And so I think what you can expect from Belgium is just, at least, and it's what we're doing at least, we're trying to get the beer that we have right now, just look at every detail of it and make it as good as we can, and look at how we can make it even better, push the boundary to get that quality level just to the next level. And I think maybe that can influence again the countries abroad to see, not just like it's not just trying to make a beer style, but let's try to make this beer style and let's try to specialize in one beer style. Whereas today you see a lot of breweries trying out like 50 different beer styles. I think the breweries that you'll see in the future, they'll stop doing that. It's my idea, but more specialize in specific beer styles each. And I think those are also the breweries that are going to be successful. And that's my idea. Yeah.
You take the ball and run with it, with what you really know best, right? And that's, so America, we had the whole prohibition thing go down, and then so we were kind of left with this sort of blank canvas. The original brewers that came to America were from around the world, and we had a very diverse, kind of range of styles. And then prohibition happened, and then it was like we forgot how to make beer, so it was just sort of like the most basic possible thing. And then we looked to the original, brewing countries to take influences. So if you look at the most popular style of craft beer in America, the IPA, where does that come from? From the United Kingdom, right? And then also we were very influenced by Belgian styles as well. And so, in stouts, Ireland and the UK as well. So, we're looking to see where we're going next. So, Founders is doing a lot of. We've got a kind of like, portfolio of brands that are different styles, barrel aged stuff, and then IPAs and all that too. But we're also going in sort of a mainstream direction too, because. And this is not the most sexy, idea for craft breweries, but, the bottom line is, in America right now, you have 15% of Americans drinking craft beer, and that's growing every year, slowly, but you have 85% of Americans who don't drink craft beer at all. And what are they drinking? They're drinking premium, domestic, macro kind of lager. So that's our newest beer, is we actually made like a premium domestic lager from a craft sensibility. So using American craft hops, using German hops, and making it balanced and flavorful, but for that specific style to try to appeal to the mass market, The BA would be like, you guys are total, lamos for doing that, but it's, we want to be a craft brewery, but we want to, brew a beer that everybody can drink as well, So, to me, that's a cutting edge idea. The other styles that are big in America right now, the New England, style IPA, and to me that all kind of started with the Alchemist, Heady Topper, Lawson's Finest Liquids, those kind of beers as well. So I think that's cool. We've been toying with flavor addition hops as well, and getting the juice out of the hops and that stuff. But the sour, we were talking about sour beers the other day,
yeah.
And that's like a big thing. And so I would love to hear your take more on like, so is it a sour beer, is it a wild beer, or what's the deal going on with that?
Well, what's the deal with that? Yeah. It's of course a very very difficult question if you ask that just to one person right. From only one brewery. But and of course I come from a Boon brewery, so and a lot of the sour beer trend comes from the entire lambic scene in Belgium, of course. So not just from us, but the entire scene in Belgium. Now, what I notice in the world right now with beer, with sour beer, Personally, we're not, and that's what I said. Told you also the other day. We're not a big fan of the term sour beer.
Right, yeah.
It's like calling wine sour wine.
Yeah.
Who wants to drink sour
it's got
wine?
A negative connotation.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
and I don't know how it sounds to most people, but at least to us, and I suppose Belgians maybe in general, but to us at least, it sounds like it's a bad connotation. Sour beer is sounds like something like. Well, every time I'm talking, they're shouting over there, but okay.
Yes, sour beer is bad.
Sour beer is a bad term, yeah. No, but in the end, like in beer, in beers with sourness in it, sourness is part of the taste profile, and in like our beer, Goes, or what we make, sourness has to be soft sourness, and it's part of the entire flavor profile, and it adds like a freshness to the beer, a hint of sourness, not more than the sourness of a white wine. That's very nice, but you don't want acetic acid. Acetic acid is enough flavor.
Right.
It is, if you talk to the old guys of brewing in Belgium, and you talk about acetic acid, the thing is what you hear is that the moment they taste this in a barrel, for example, they empty the barrel and throw it out and put the barrel, they cut it in two and put it with the cows, for example, to get rid of it, because it's an infection. You have to get rid of that, because acetic acid, it's vinegar, and vinegar you can taste it on a spoon. That's nice, but a glass like this, that's just too much. And Goes, for example, which is I suppose maybe where the sour beer trend started for a big part. Goes is made to be drunk in these glasses.
Right.
And beer is made to be drunk in not. Yeah, okay, you can make beer for degustations and so on, but in the end, why do you make beer? Is it to taste only 10 centiliters, or is it to drink a nice glass and enjoy your time in the sun or at home, just enjoying a nice bottle of beer? I mean, they don't make bottles of 10 centiliters, they make bottles of 30 centiliters, 75 centiliters, and so on. That's the size you're drinking. That's also the size of it's a volume you should be able to drink and enjoy. Acetic acid doesn't help with that. So that's, first of all, the biggest important thing I think with sour beer today. That has to be known.
Yeah. Wasn't the thing like? There's nothing against like American breweries. Absolutely not. You know? Okay, but like if you think about American breweries, you always make something tough. You know, like hoppy beers. Come on, make a ton of hops. You know, make a sour. Make it something that will just polish your floor.
Sort of older
yeah,
top, you know,
and maybe it was. That's I was thinking that you have this culture of lambic beers in Belgium.
You're talking about Stone, though, right? No.
You have like lambic beers, which they have their own limits. You know where it is, and they have American breweries. Okay, it's sour, make it more sour. Why not?
Well, I think
because it's craft brewery, so
there is something to this, like there's sort of like a countercultural element to craft beer, and like so. Yeah, if you want to rebel against the mainstream, you know, industrial macro beer, let's make a beer that's sour, where like most people wouldn't want to enjoy this kind of flavor, and we're, you know, sort of like connoisseur. You know, we're more about like the, you know, more interesting flavors, and so sour. You don't want this is not for you guys. This is for us. You know, like, but I mean, I feel like. Maybe wild beer is more of like a. Are you more comfortable with that term? Like
wild beer sounds better.
It sounds more like you know, like
wild beer. I think the term cool ship ale has also been already pitched.
Cool ship,
but
cool. It's got the word cool in it.
It's cool. Yeah. But of course, if you're not doing a cool ship and just doing the wild yeasts, then it's more broadly wild ale is maybe.
I don't know if it's an American philosophy to be in your face and punch you over the head with flavors. I feel like most of the American craft beer brewers who I know, they're more about taking, like being loyal and respectful of an original style, and then taking that style and doing their own twist on it, like Cascade, for example. You know, I feel like they're very reverent about, you know, the traditional method of lambic or Goose or for goose beers, and so but then they do their own kind of twist on it, and you know, same with like Founders, for example, like taking our first beer that we were like really psyched on was Dirty Bastard. So that's a Scotch ale or wee heavy. So we took the wee heavy style, we got all the Scottish malts, and then we decided to do 2 American hop varieties and balance out the sweetness with like bitterness. So it's 50 IBUs of Willamette and Nugget hops. And then, you know, that was we kind of made it our own, you know, but out of reverence and respect for the original style, but trying to put the Founder's twist on it, you know, and do like a Midwest sort of bigger, maybe not bigger, but just like a different take on it, you know?
Like I said this thing about American beers and sour thing, but maybe it was like absolutely natural thing that was happening in the US. Yeah. Maybe not in Belgium as a very traditional brewing, and actually a foundation of one of the foundations of the craft beer revolution. Yeah. It was that this first stage of craft beer revolution was like, you know, like the kid is going out in the house, and I will show you, you know, I will get drunk, I will like vomit everywhere, and I will show you off. And now you have this more session beers, okay? Yeah. We'll make hops, but the bitterness will not like put you to the floor. No, it was like you will feel the taste, but like it's more a legend.
I think the reason why there's session beers is quite simply because it's an alternative to the what you call the what did you use the very nice term for that macro beers.
Macro industrial beers.
Yes. You use a very nice term for that, but I think it's a very nice. I think it's a very nice alternative to that when you want to drink something, but just the name today it says it. That's what it says. Session beer. Just really every time it's all. All right. I love you. All right. No, but I think that's what they're. I think that's what it's about. I mean, it's nice to have these extreme beers. It's what's probably typical in the United States. Like, let's try to make the beer with the highest IBU possible. Let's make a beer with the most extreme sourness. Let's try to do it. And
because why not? You know?
Yeah, because why not? And everyone's free to do that, to do whatever he wants. And if there's people who want to drink it, that's fine. But I think in the end, and it's maybe a bit like what I said earlier about you want to drink a big glass of beer to just enjoy and just refresh yourself. Yeah. I think that's maybe the idea behind session beers, because you can drink something very extreme, but maybe you're just drinking it, tasting a glass of it, but not an entire glass, and so you want something with a lot of flavor, but you want to drink a large glass, and just that in between, and then maybe taste some special flavors, taste it, those extreme things, but to drink a glass, I think that's when session comes in, you see?
I love to draw parallels between beer and food, and so this was my lunch today. So this is that's a pork knuckle that we had in a wonderful restaurant in downtown Warsaw, and so this was an incredible experience. I really enjoyed it, but I could not eat this. not every day, and not necessarily even once a month. Maybe once every 6 months. But I feel like that about beer. It's like, you have to, sometimes you just need, I mean, me as somebody who loves beer, like sometimes, and food, sometimes you need a giant pork knuckle that's like bigger than your head on a bed of sauerkraut, and it's like a wonderful experience for flavor and everything else. But then, that would be like the double IPA or the, bourbon barrel age stout or very extreme, wild beer or something. But then, you have to have a more functional, sometimes you just need a salad, like, or water, some fish tacos, and that's the great thing about beer, it's, there's a time and a place for every beer, and if you're just hanging out at a beer festival showing a soccer game, and this is the perfect beer for that, maybe.
For sure, one of them. And because I don't want to make like 1 hour interview, I could probably make with you 4 hours interview.
Easily.
At least. But was something interesting that we were speaking before the interview. You were speaking about how you are improving Boon Brewery, which is for me like what else you can improve there, and also like founders, amazing beers, and
Thank you.
what else you can improve there. But you are inside of it there. Where maybe I'm not speaking about technicalities, like very detailed thing, but where you see still improvements to your beers.
Great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question, and
Thank you.
it's a good question. Yeah, indeed. No, but where is the improvement? Well, I'm just gonna give you an example from 5 years ago, which is a very simple example, maybe, but. 5 years ago, we really started with a series of investments which were ending this year to improve every step in the production process. A big part of it had to do with, for example, just getting out every part where possible oxygen uptake could occur. Yes, okay, we're putting our beer on a cool ship, that's one thing. But after that, oxygen is an enemy. It's a big enemy, because if you get too much oxygen in your beer, in our case, it can create, if you combine it with heat, for example, it could create sourness that some wanted, it could create aging problems and so on. You have the classical potato, cardboard flavors, those kind of things. Okay. But so 5 years ago, we built a new brew house, completely automatic, stainless steel. Yes, it's less romantic than maybe our cast iron brew house before. But the cast iron brewing kettle, I'll just give you an example. You're brewing beer in that, and just take your thermometer, and on the side you measure the temperature, and okay, it says 67 degrees Celsius, nice. You go a bit further and it says, 68 degrees Celsius, and you go a bit further to the center, it says, 70 degrees Celsius. Just inside your mash tun, you already have a lot of difference just while brewing. Now, if you try to create a certain process, a chemical process inside, the same has to go on everywhere, and different temperatures mean that different things will happen, quite simply. So with a new brew house, if let's say, for example, we taste the beer from the old brew house and new brew house, which we did the best we could with the old brew house, and we made nice beer with that. But I do taste the cast iron, let's say very simply, a bit of minerality in the beer with our old brew house beer. Today we don't have it anymore, and it's much finer, it's much nicer, it's a lot softer, rounder. Everything is nicely isolated, it's well closed, steam pipes are isolated, and every step is, it's small details. It's really, there's hundreds of details that you can talk about. So the bends of the bends of the piping, the way you do your milling, the every part of timing. Like, for example, the timing of putting in your hops. Today we open up the boiling kettle, put it in our hops, but actually you can do that better. You can get your hops in there with a let's say, I think it's an air pressure system, but you can get it in there with that, and maybe it's not as romantic as putting it in there with your hands and making which is what you would do for marketing pictures. Rough guys putting in the ingredients from bags of 30 kilograms. Yeah, that looks nice, but in the end, if you can do it, if you can do the timing just right by doing it with just injecting the hops by air pressure and getting it like that through a pipe in the boiling kettle, for example. It's just one example, but then you can get your hopping just right, and that's all these steps to get everything just right. And there's so many steps, there's so many details, and your beer goes through kilometers of pipeline. Everything has to be just right, and nowhere you can have an infection, nowhere you can have oxygen uptake. Everything should be just right. I mean, if you pump beer through a pipeline, you don't pump beer through a pipeline, you put water in front of it first. And let's say you want to get rid of oxygen. Well, water generally also contains some oxygen. So you have to make water that doesn't contain oxygen to put in front of your beer that you put through pipelines. So you have to get an installation just to get rid of oxygen in beer. And all these things, it just continues, and that's how you improve your beer. Every small detail. And maybe you don't taste this immediately, but it's all these last 10% of quality. That's the most expensive investment. It's the most difficult investment. But that last 10%, accumulated together, you get really the best quality of beer there is. That's what innovation is about, also. For us.
I could not have put that any better at all. That's exactly what I was going to say.
We agree.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's about QC, you know, and it's about getting the oxygen down and figuring out ways to improve making the beers that we've decided that we're really into, you know, you know, efficiency and figuring out how to, you know, make those beers as you know, not just brewed to be delicious, but to get into the package and get to the consumer and last and be able to be enjoyed, you know, at the point of sale. But I would add one other thing to that. It's basically how do we improve its innovation as well as quality, you know. So it's like we keep looking inward at trying to brew styles that we enjoy, and that's where All Day IPA came from. Is like our brewmaster Jeremy was like, I love Centennial IPA. You know, I love IPAs, but it's 7.2% ABV. So like, is there a way to get that much flavor in a beer that's under 5%? So that's where we went back to, you know, to the drawing board to try to find out, like, is it possible to make a beer, you know, that's a full flavored IPA, but you can enjoy more than, you know, 3 and not pass out or remember the score of the football game. And then, so that's what we've tried to continue to do in terms of, can we make a beer, you know, that's like a standard kind of macro lager, but that has deliciousness and crushability and everything like that, you know. So, and we've kind of also just, what's fun? What are we into right now? Let's make a beer, imperial stout with blueberries, you know, let's make a mango habanero beer, and let's just keep having fun with it, you know. So that's how we continue to improve, besides quality control and efficiency, and very importantly, sustainability and, you know, sort of waste divergence as well. That's very important to do as you grow as a brewery, so we're trying to get to 100% waste divergence as well as we go on too. But yeah, just having fun and innovation and brands, brewing the beer that we want to drink, you know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think like almost half an hour that we're speaking now. Like this thing, keep fun, keep brewing, and keep in touch. You know, thank you so much, guys, for this interview.
It's a pleasure.
And we are going back to enjoy match or another drinks, you know. So cheers. Michał Małe Piwo TV. Do następnego.